Everything seemed perfectly normal that Saturday in Los Angeles. A confident millionaire, accompanied by his girlfriend, was driving along the sunny avenues toward an elegant beauty salon, planning nothing more than an afternoon of relaxation and celebration. But what he didn't know was that behind the glass walls of that place, fate was preparing a reunion that would forever transform not only his day, but his entire life. Daniel Cortez was not ready for what was about to unfold. And frankly, no one would be. But what would you do if, while trying to surprise the woman you love, you encountered another woman, the one who had shattered you years ago, in a state that would completely change your perception of reality? And what if that woman was pregnant and working at the salon where your girlfriend was just about to be served? The answer to the first question is, you would freeze. And for the second, you would start doubting everything you once believed was true. Because that was exactly what happened to Daniel. In that salon, upon hearing a name from the past and seeing a face he'd never forgotten, he realized he had never overcome anything. 5 years earlier, Sophia had vanished from Daniel's life as if she had evaporated into thin air. A 3-word letter, an empty bank account, and a silence that seemed eternal. He spent months looking for answers. He investigated, made calls, cried, screamed, until he was exhausted, until he accepted that perhaps he would never know why. When Emily appeared, he finally felt at peace, a gentle, generous, intelligent woman. In no time at all, she brought color to the gray world he had grown accustomed to living. And that day, the plan was simply to celebrate their first anniversary as a couple. Nothing more. The salon was located in Beverly Hills, on a corner where the glass reflected the blue California sky. Emily wore a light coral dress and smiled as she held Daniel's arm. The receptionist greeted them with the usual formality. "Welcome to Maison Belle. Your hairstylist today is Sophia." In that instant, time stopped. The name echoed in Daniel's ears like a muffled earthquake. And seconds later she appeared. Sophia, his great love, his ex-wife, the very same woman who had disappeared without leaving any explanation. But there was something different about her now, something impossible to ignore. A clearly 7-month pregnant belly, and a look that said so much, even as she avoided meeting his gaze. The shock made Daniel feel as if the ground had vanished from beneath his feet. He didn't know whether to scream, run away, or pretend that none of this was happening. The salon was full, but his world had narrowed down to that single image. Sophia, dressed in her salon uniform, picking up a brush as if it were just another day at work. Her eyes instinctively looked away, yet it was impossible to feign that this reunion didn't shake her to the core. The past he had tried to bury with therapy, trips, and new relationships was there, alive, breathing, and as far as everything indicated, expecting a child. Emily, on the other hand, was enchanted by the sophisticated environment. She didn't notice the weight on Daniel's face, nor the stiffness in his posture. She was gently led to the styling chair, and ironically it was Sophia who attended to her, the same woman who, 5 years before, had shared a bed with Daniel, the same who now would wash and cut the hair of the woman he loved. Sophia maintained an exemplary professional demeanor, but anyone paying close attention would see the slight tremble in her hands. And they would also notice the enormous effort to keep control in the face of a past that, until yesterday, seemed buried. Daniel couldn't stay in the salon. He said he would return later and left, aimlessly wandering the sidewalks of Beverly Hills. Each step felt heavier than the last. Every thought raised new questions. Whose was the baby? Why was she there? How does someone vanish for 5 years and reappear, smiling, pregnant, and in a white coat at a salon? The images mingled with old memories, lazy Sundays in a downtown loft, plans of having children someday, and the letter, that damned letter. "Sorry, Just that, 5 letters and a period. In the car, Daniel sat still for long minutes. With the air conditioner on and his hands sweating on the steering wheel, he stared at the Salon's facade as if it were an unsolvable riddle. Through the glass, he saw Sophia braiding Emily's hair, and that was like a stab in the heart. The hands that once cared for him were now touching another woman, his current one. But there was something beyond jealousy. There was pain, there was anger, and there was an emptiness he thought he had long since overcome. But now he realized he had never overcome anything. He had simply pushed it all into the darkest corner of his memory. Inside, Sophia did everything she could to maintain her composure. Every word spoken to Emily, every technical movement with her hair, was an effort to hide the avalanche of emotions consuming her from within. She hadn't expected to meet Daniel again, not in this situation of all places. His silence, the way he left, his look, all indicated that old wounds still bled. And now, the woman who occupied the place that once was hers sat before her praising her hands, her work. Sophia felt as if she were acting in a play with a cruelly improvised script. Emily, for her part, had no idea that she was at the center of a storm. She spoke animatedly about the treatments, mentioning that the day was special and that her boyfriend, Daniel, was planning something to celebrate. She spoke with tenderness, with confidence. Sophia listened, smiled, replied, but everything hurt. Knowing that this man who had once been her whole world now belonged to another, and that this other woman was, by the cruel twist of fate, kind, polite, and absolutely delightful. That only made everything harder, more real, and more impossible to ignore. When the service ended, Sophia went to the restroom, as if to escape for a moment to catch her breath. She leaned against the cold wall and placed her hand on her belly. The baby moved, as if sensing her nervousness. She took several deep breaths, trying to hold back the tears that insisted on coming. "Everything will be all right," she whispered. But she wasn't sure if she truly believed it herself. She returned to the salon with a washed face and a practiced smile. Emily paid for the service and left, leaving behind a light fragrance and a sincere compliment. "You have a gift, Sophia. Thank you for today." Outside, Daniel was waiting in the car. Emily entered in high spirits, recounting how amazing the professional had been. Daniel listened in silence, his mind still within the salon. His eyes searched through the rearview mirror for one last glimpse of Sophia. And there she was, standing behind the glass. For a moment, their eyes met. No, words were exchanged, but in that brief contact it became clear this was not over. 5 years of silence would demand answers, and there was something she needed to explain, something he deserved to know. That evening, Daniel took Emily to the restaurant he had reserved with such care. A sophisticated place in West Hollywood with dim lighting, ambient music, and the perfect atmosphere for a romantic evening. But his appetite had vanished. Daniel's mind was miles away. While Emily talked about the menu, he merely pretended to read the food list. The main course was something entirely different, the truth, and it was stuck in his throat. Emily noticed. She saw the distant looks, the prolonged silences, the lack of sparkle in his smile. "Are you okay?" she asked gently. Daniel hesitated, but he knew he couldn't pretend any longer. "Today's hairstylist, Sophia," he began. Emily raised her eyebrows. "You know her?" she asked, still smiling. "She was my wife." Emily's fork paused in mid-air. The sentence hung in the air for long seconds. Daniel kept his eyes fixed on his plate, as if looking at the woman in front of him were more difficult than facing everything he'd ever encountered. She disappeared 5 years ago. She took everything, even a part of me. Silence fell. Emily carefully set down her cutlery and leaned back in her chair. Her face showed not anger, but rather surprise. "Is that why you left the salon like that?" she asked. Daniel nodded. "I didn't know what to do. It was like seeing a ghost." Emily took a deep breath. "Do you still feel something for her?" The question came like a scalpel, surgical and necessary. Daniel paused. "I feel questions. I feel anger. I feel that I'm trapped in an unresolved past. But no, it isn't love. What I have with you is real." Emily lowered her eyes and took a sip of water. There was a whirlwind inside her, yet she chose to stand by him. "Then perhaps you should seek those answers, because we only move forward when we understand what was left behind." Daniel looked at her gratefully, and in that moment, he knew he had to confront Sophia, not out of curiosity, but because their story deserved a proper ending, even if it hurt, even if the outcome turned out to be more confusing than anything he had ever lived through. The next morning, Los Angeles awoke under an overcast sky. Daniel got up early, but remained lying in bed for long minutes, staring at the ceiling, as if expecting some answer to fall from above. Emily was still asleep beside him. He watched her with tenderness and a pang of guilt, not for loving her, but for having inadvertently dragged her into a past that still bled. Later, when he was ready to go to the office, he received an unexpected message. "Hi, can we talk? I'm at the Salon at 8. Sophia." On the other side of the city, Sophia was tidying up the brushes and mirrors at the salon in silence. Her puffy eyes betrayed a night of little sleep. Every gesture she made was automatic, rehearsed, but inside she was in turmoil. She knew that this reunion would not be the last, and that sooner or later she would have to speak, and speak everything, even if part of the truth still hurt. When the salon door opened, Sophia expected to see Daniel, but who entered was Emily, with a closed umbrella in hand and a serene yet determined gaze. "Good morning, Sophia. Can we talk?" The two of them stood face to face in the empty salon, enveloped by the scent of hair products and the soft sound of instrumental music playing in the background. Sophia gestured toward the waiting chair, unsure of how to guide the conversation. Emily seated herself calmly. "Daniel told me everything he knew, but I believe you have more to say. I'm here to listen, without judgment." Sophia felt her legs give out for a second, but she maintained her posture. She took a deep breath and began. "This isn't easy for me. I never planned to run away, but there was something I couldn't allow to happen to him." Emily regarded her intently. Sophia then placed her hand on her belly. This wasn't an accident, and it wasn't infidelity either, but it was part of a difficult choice. 5 years ago, Daniel was unknowingly involved in something dangerous. I found evidence, and when I tried to tell him, I was threatened. Emily's expression changed. Curiosity gave way to tension. "By whom?" she asked. Sophia hesitated. "By someone who worked with him, and who would do anything to silence anyone, who tried to expose what was happening." Sophia lowered her eyes for a moment, as if recalling the details was like reliving a burning pain. "I helped Daniel with some spreadsheets for his company. He trusted me. One day I noticed discrepancies, large sums coming in and out of phantom accounts, all tied to one name, Martin Reyes." Emily recognized the name immediately. Daniel had mentioned this former business partner who had disappeared just before the company crisis. "I tried to warn Daniel, but before I could show him anything, I received an anonymous call, then a written threat with pictures of him, following his routine, going to work." "And so you decided to disappear?" asked Emily, with a mix of understanding and shock. I thought that by disappearing, I would take the attention off myself, that he would be safe, Sophia replied, her voice now choked. I took part of the money left in our joint account to flee, but I swear it was to pay for security, and then to start anew somewhere where they couldn't find me. Emily fell silent, absorbing everything. And the baby, she asked, eyeing Sophia's belly. Is it his? She added. Sophia nodded slowly. I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after I fled. I thought about telling him, but every time I got ready to send a letter, something happened that made me back down. I received notes, messages, even recent photos of Daniel, as if warning me, we're watching. The salon remained empty, but the air there seemed to weigh heavily. Emily leaned back in her chair. The conflict was etched on her face. You spent 5 years hidden away, alone, raising a child he doesn't even know exists, out of fear of protecting someone who you thought had betrayed you. I never wanted it to be that way, Sophia whispered. But when you love someone, sometimes protecting them means disappearing, and I disappeared. The silence between them was broken only by the sound of the automatic towel dryer humming in the background. Emily calmly stood up. He needs to know everything, the complete truth, and not just for him, but for you, and for this baby. Sophia nodded silently. For the first time in years, she felt that perhaps she was no longer alone. Meanwhile, Daniel was in his office, gazing out at the Los Angeles skyline without truly seeing it. His fingers swiped through old photos on his phone. He stopped on one, Sophia smiling on a Malibu beach, hair in the wind, eyes shining. It was a good memory, and now a bitter one. The phone buzzed. It was a message from Emily. I talked with her. You need to listen to what she has to say. It's not what you think. Daniel took his time replying. Part of him wanted to forget. Another part desperately needed to understand. That afternoon, he got into his car and went to the salon. He didn't set an appointment, didn't call ahead. He just showed up. Sophia was attending to a client, but stopped as soon as she saw him. They stared at each other for long, seconds, neither knowing where to begin. Can we talk outside? He said. Sophia nodded. They walked to the back parking lot, where the street noise was muffled and privacy was greater. Do you have any idea what you did to me? He began, in a low voice, yet with evident weight. You disappeared. You left me with no answers. And now you reappear with my child. Sophia took a deep breath. I did everything for you. Daniel laughed bitterly. Don't say that. Don't claim you abandoned me to protect me. But then she showed him. She pulled an envelope from her purse containing newspaper clippings, copies of messages and records. They were laundering money using your company. I discovered it. I tried to warn you. I was threatened. I received pictures of you, Daniel, pictures of you going about your routine. They knew exactly where you were at every moment. If I spoke out, you could have died. Daniel took the documents and read silently. As he read, his face changed. Anger gave way to shock. Then came doubt, and finally, fear. Why didn't you tell me? He asked, his voice trembling. Because I was sure you wouldn't believe me. Because if you tried to help, you'd end up dead, and I wouldn't survive if that happened. Daniel stepped back 2 paces, confused, pressured. His certainties crumbled one by one. For years he had believed that he had been betrayed, that he had loved the wrong person. But now everything was flipping upside down. And the most painful question was, how many wrong decisions had he made based on an incomplete truth? The next morning, Emily awoke to a notification on her phone. A suspicious bank transfer made in the name of the company where Daniel had worked at the time of Sophia's disappearance. It was a copy of the file Sophia had given her, the sender's name? Martin Reyes, the very same man who now seemed to be the key to all the destruction. Emily showed it to Daniel, and he finally understood that what Sophia was saying was real and graver than he had imagined. "We need to take this to the police," he said, determined. "We can't keep pretending it's all in the past." But Sophia still hesitated. "If we do that, he will know. He'll come after me. And now, I'm not alone anymore. I have a child to protect." Emily placed her hand over Sophia's. "Now you also have us." Daniel looked at the two of them. For the first time, the three were united, and that changed everything. With the help of a trusted lawyer, they began organizing all the documents, dates, records, and evidence. It wouldn't be simple nor safe, but it was the right thing to do. It was the chance to rewrite a story that had been forcefully interrupted. The following week, they handed everything over to the FBI. The agent in charge confirmed that there was already an ongoing investigation into Martin Reyes and other businessmen involved in money laundering schemes and financial fraud. Sophia's cooperation would be crucial, but it also meant that she would have to testify formally. Daniel accompanied her on the day of her deposition, and when she entered that room, her belly already large and her steps slow, he realized something he hadn't admitted even to himself. He still admired her, for her courage, for her strength, for the way she endured everything in silence. After leaving the police station, Sophia sat on a park bench and finally cried. But this time, it wasn't just fear. It was relief. Daniel sat beside her silently. After a while, he said, "You don't have to carry this alone anymore." Sophia turned her face toward him, her eyes red but calm. "And you still want to be a part of this?" she asked, lightly gesturing toward her belly. Daniel didn't answer immediately. He only reached out and gently placed his hand on her belly. "I do, but in the right way, without lies, without running away." And there, for the first time in years, the past began to reconcile with the present. In the weeks that followed, all their lives changed. 4. Security. Sophia began working from home while awaiting the birth of her baby. Surprisingly, Emily remained by Daniel's side, and more than that, she started collaborating on the marketing for the Salon, where it all began. The three lives, once separated by silence, hurt, and fear, were now intertwined in an unexpected way, and it was in this intertwining that something new was born. Not just a child, but understanding, a forgiveness, and a new chance. When the baby arrived, a healthy boy with eyes identical to Daniel's, no words were necessary. Daniel was there, holding the little one in his arms, feeling that something in his soul had finally aligned. Emily, by their side, smiled. It wasn't a conventional ending, it wasn't simple, but it was real, and it was theirs. Because life sometimes doesn't return to what it once was, but it can begin in a way even better, when the truth comes to light, when traumas are faced, and when love, even in different forms, endures. Looking at Daniel and Emily at the hospital, Sophia thought about how different everything could have been, yet she didn't regret having protected the man she loved. And now, more than ever, she knew she had never been alone. Her overcoming wasn't just about surviving fear, it was about learning to trust again, and to trust at the right time. For his part, Daniel learned that sometimes the greatest courage lies in listening to what we don't want to hear. And Emily, she showed the world that true love is also seen in the hardest choices. 3 lives, an unexpected reunion, and the certainty that a new beginning can sometimes be more powerful than any ending. Quote of the day: "Sometimes forgiveness doesn't change the past, but it completely transforms the future." If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss the next videos. And leave a comment below. Would you forgive someone who vanished from your life for 5 years? We want to know your opinion. This was just the first part. The continuation of this emotional story comes in part 2. Don't miss it.